Welcome to Advent of Tessellations 2025. My name is Madonna Yoder, and you're joining hundreds of folders around the world on this 25-day journey into the infinite world of repeating patterns folded from a single sheet of paper. You'll discover many different twists in this challenge, building up to advanced patterns with flagstone motifs of trapezoid twists. Welcome to day 9 of Advent of Tess 2025. Today we're folding a pattern that I designed named Pebbled that has the same pattern on both sides of the paper. So we get these 3 rhombus twists on this side and 3 rhombus twists on the other side. And these groups of 3 rhombi on one side, group of 3 rhombi on the other, group of 3 triangles on one side, group of 3 triangles on the other side. So this is our second isoarea pattern of the series, and it uses only rhombus and triangle twists. This actually has even more twists than the pattern yesterday, because there are 6 of these groups of 6 twists, so 36 twists total. Let's go ahead and jump in. I'm using a 24 division triangle grid on a hexagon, same as the rest of the series. If you'd like instructions on how to fold the grid, that's in the welcome video. You can sign up and get the crease pattern for today's design at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent, where you'll also see broader instructions on how to get your grid folded and how to get hexagons of this paper, Skytone, my favorite one for folding tessellations, in this size, already cut out into a hexagon if you want. So, starting from the center, I'm going to identify my center point, and then I'll zoom in, and this time our folds are going to be 3 spaces from the center. So the particular rhombus twist that I'm going to put in first has a valley fold 1, 2, 3 spaces away from the center. It goes for 3 spaces. So you can see there's a triangle of grid lines, 3 spaces on each side with the center at the corner. And there's also a mountain fold, solid line, down there. And this mountain fold is the through line of the rhombus. With our valley fold, we know there has to be a mountain 1 space away, so this puts the central diamond of the rhombus right at that intersection of the 2 mountain folds and on the opposite side of the through line. When we set this up, I'm going to lift up my new mountain folds, and the 4th mountain is going to be parallel to this diagonal on the opposite side of the central diamond. And notice that whenever I pick up a mountain fold, I'm picking it up and having it run as a mountain all the way to the edge of the paper, which makes it easier to work with. And then I can lay down each of my mountain folds over their respective valleys. So this one, I had drawn on the valley fold already. This one, I'm going to follow that lead. So as I go around this twist, I hit a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain, then a valley, then a mountain, then a valley, and then get back to where I started. So we've got the rotation, we've got our rhombus set up, and I can go ahead and press to squash. And by the way, there's also an option to get all of these patterns for the 2025 series with the crease pattern already printed on them while supplies last. So I know this video will be public for a long time, and probably in a couple years there won't be any left. Maybe in a couple weeks, I don't know. So from this point, what we're going to do is flip the paper over to fold a rhombus twist on the back. I'm going to grab my current rhombus twist in my hand, flip over, and actually, first I'm going to write on here side A, and then on the back side, I can see a little bit through the paper and get a hint of that. And that helps me identify the center point. I can also follow my grid lines out to the corners. And I'm going to mark this as side B. And what I'm going to do is rotate so this rhombus is up on top of the center. And I'm going to notice, okay, 1, 2, 3 spaces out from the center, I need to have a valley fold coming down. The other way I can reference this is 3 spaces out from this place where we switch from a valley fold going this way to a mountain fold going this way around the center. I'm going 3 spaces out, and then I'll have my new valley fold. Then I can lift that into place. And what I'm noticing is the way that these mountain folds are interacting. I've got a 120-degree angle over here and a 60-degree angle over here. So that means that my central diamond has to be on this side where there's the 60-degree angle. And some of that is recognition from doing thousands of these twists, of these closed rhombus twists, but some of that is there really isn't any other way to set up a rhombus twist given 2 pleats that run into each other. And so this top pleat is my through line. I'm going to set up the rest of my rhombus. I have a pleat overlap on this diagonal pleat. And we'll leave that as an overlap for right now, and we'll come back to that in just a moment. And once we're here, we can press to squash. From here, we have this little overlap, and I'm going to have 2 triangle twists, 1 twist on this side of the paper and 1 on the opposite side. One of the things about this pattern is that all the pleats from twists on one side of the paper go to twists on the opposite side. So this pleat coming from the rhombus on the back needs to go to the triangle that's on this side. I drew in a valley fold 1 space back from the intersection of mountains. I'm going to open up the pleat from the latest rhombus, pop the mountain down where the valley hits. I'm going to let that valley go 1 space further until it hits the valley of the pleat from the new rhombus. And that's going to make a 3-way intersection. We're also going to have a 3-way intersection of mountain folds to complete the triangle wrap. And we're going to have another 3-way intersection of mountain folds up here, where those 2 mountain folds of the overlap originally intersected, because we need to set up our triangle twist up above. It's going to be a closed triangle twist in order for the triangle wrap to happily fold up or happily lay flat. Once this wrap, so basically we have these 2 3-way intersections of mountain folds that are 1 grid spacing apart. The bottom one is part of a wrap around the pleat from our latest rhombus, and the top one we can squash into a closed triangle twist. From here, I'm going to flip back to side A and take that triangle that was wrapped and flip the pleat going out to the edge over to turn it into a closed triangle twist. Rotating the paper, so now that rhombus slit is at the bottom. Notice this is the opposite of how we oriented things last time, but we're working off of the same pleat, the pleat from the rhombus on the other side. And we're going to have the same spacing, 3 spaces from the corner inside, or you could say 1 space past the end of the slit, or 2 spaces including the one along the slit, or 3 spaces from the center point. There's a lot of different ways to define this location. That is going to be not just a valley fold, but also a mountain next to it. So we can set up that pleat, and notice here, my mountain's coming in, it's making a 60-degree angle with this mountain, assuming that this mountain continues straight through. And that is indeed one of the triangles of our central diamond. And with that in place, we'll press to squash. Now, some of you advanced folders might be wondering, how do I know how much of the pattern I'm folding in each of these steps? Like, how do I know that there's going to be a pleat overlap there? How do I know that it resolves into 2 triangles? These are things that I get from the tiling, the underlying structure of the pattern. And it's things that are written down along with the crease patterns that you'll get each day in your email inbox when you sign up at training.gatheringfolds.com/advent. Those tiling diagrams and crease patterns are also included in the Advent of Tess 2025 ebook, which I recommend checking out. And you can find that, whoops, I'm doing without explaining. You can find the ebook at gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, or origami-shop.com. So here we have the same overlap between the rhombus we just put in and the one on the other side that needs to be resolved with 2 triangle twists, same overlap as we had on the other side of the paper. I'm going to resolve it in the same way with a triangle twist on this side and a triangle twist on the other side. I have the same spacing for that valley fold, 1 space out from my intersection of mountain folds. That intersection of mountain folds is going to be one of the grid intersections where I put in a 3-way intersection of mountain folds. And I'm letting this valley interrupt the mountain of the rhombus we just put in to form a 3-way intersection of valleys down below that has a 3-way intersections of mountain, 3-way intersection of mountain folds along with it, and wraps under. And then we can squash the triangle on this side and flip over to side B and squash the triangle on the other side. And then we repeat these steps again. So rotating, I find the place where my next valley fold needs to hit. I fold both the valley and the mountain of that pleat. I use how these mountain folds are interacting to identify my rhombus twist. And as usual, if you want more precise instructions on this with drawing, we do have the previous repeats already in the video. So I put in my rhombus twist. This has a pleat overlap. And I press to squash. Then come back to that pleat overlap and turn it into a triangle above and triangle below. And press to squash. Once everything is squashed on this side, I'll flip to the other side, squash the remaining triangle by flipping the free pleat over, and continue with my next rhombus twist. This time, I have another pleat in the way. So when I put in my valley fold, I am going to not only set up my rhombus twist down in here, I'm also going to put in a triangle wrap. So how do I know it's a triangle wrap instead of a compound wrap? Well, these two pleats are coming together at a 120-degree angle. That's the characteristic angle of a triangle wrap. And we're going to open the pleat from our very first rhombus and let the valley pass through, one spacing past the mountain to hit the valley down below, and make a three-way intersection of valley folds, and in this direction heading off to the corner we have a mountain fold one space before this valley, and that can lay down flat, and we can get on with putting in our rhombus twist. With the 4 pleats of the rhombus set up, I can press to squash. And then I have my pleat overlap back here. Then just like in the previous repeats, I'm going to open up and turn into a triangle above and a triangle below. Or triangle twist above, triangle wrap below. And then we'll flip to the other side to squash the new triangle twist. And then we'll come over, and our valley for the next rhombus is already in place. Just like we saw yesterday, the three-way intersection has the central diamond of the new rhombus sitting right on top, or like right in the corner of that top layer. And so we can find the through line, we can find the other diagonal pleat. There was a pleat headed out this way that I erased during that process. And we can press from the top to squash. This time we have our pleat overlaps on both sides of the rhombus. I'll start with the one above, which is the same as the ones we've seen before. And I'll open up the latest pleat, run the valley one space away from the previous intersection of mountains, and put in my 2 three-way intersections of mountains, my 3-way intersection of valleys down below, and press to squash my triangle here, and flip over to squash my triangle on the other side. While we're here, this other overlap suddenly looks a lot more familiar. We're on the side where we can, and we do have to open up the pleats in a different order, but we can put in that valley fold. We have our 2 three-way intersections of mountains and our 3-way intersection of valleys down below. We can set up our new triangle twist up here. And flip over, flip the free pleat to squash the triangle twist on side B. So this has been a lot already. For some of the days, this would be the whole pattern, but we're not done yet. In fact, we're just getting started. From here, I'm going to continue working around the edge, kind of like we did already, working on one side and then going over to the next side and on around. And I'm going to start with these two pleats that are coming from triangle twists on the opposite side. Now, I need my pleats that I'm going to work on to be coming from triangle twists on the opposite side, because all of my twists have pleats that connect to twists on the opposite side. So if I want to fold a twist on this side, the pleat needs to come from a twist on the other side. And I'm going to put in a new rhombus twist. But I'm not going to put in the whole rhombus twist right away. I'm going to say, okay, we have a symmetric thing going on in here. So I'd pointed out in the beginning that we have these groups of rhombus twists. And that's what we're starting to do right here. We have one rhombus, two triangles on either side, and these two triangle holes. We're adding in these rhombus twists, but we don't want to cause a bunch of overlaps with things that are already in place. Like if I put in a whole rhombus here, it would send a pleat this way, and that's not what I want. So what I'm going to do is find my spacing, and I can say that what comes out of here has to be what comes out of here, because we've got that symmetric situation. And this goes one space before it hits the corner of the rhombus. So this is going to go one space before it hits the corner of the rhombus. And I'm going to put that in as a three-way intersection. So I'm putting it in. I've got my valley, I've got my mountain one space further out. I'm going to let the third mountain come to the same grid intersection, and then I'm going to lay it down flat. This will stay here until I'm ready to get back to it later. Then I'll come down to this pleat down here and say, okay, whatever comes out of this has to be the same as whatever came out of this. Okay, so I can say, okay, the pleat came out, the valley fold hits at a 60-degree angle. The pleat came out, the valley fold hits at a 60-degree angle. And then I can find where that means my new rhombus twist is. And I'm looking for confirmation. The fat corner of the rhombus is closer into the center. That's a good thing. And I've got a pleat overlap over here and a situation over here that could be a pleat overlap, or I could turn it into a triangle wrap. So that one I'll lay down as a triangle wrap. It's a lot easier. And then this one down here, these two pleats are coming together at a 60-degree angle. So I'm going to turn that into a compound wrap. With this rhombus in place, with the overlaps on either side dealt with, I'm going to press to squash. And by the way, if I was working on much bigger paper, like I did for this version of the pattern, I would have another pleat overlap down here, and I would not do a wrap. I would leave this pleat flat and overlap the pleat coming from this compound wrap. So now we've got a triangle wrap and a compound wrap. These are both situations that you resolve from the other side of the paper. So I'm going to grab the triangle wrap and flip over. That triangle wrap is going to turn into a triangle twist, completing the group of 3 triangles here. This is right up against, so the corner of this triangle is right up against the edge of the paper. So I'm going to make sure that that corner is really happy as I'm squashing it. I'm going to make sure that the paper is pressed flat down and that there's no snags on this edge of the paper as I'm squashing. It might need a bit of air folding, it might need a bit of pinching. That's just how folding at the edge of the paper goes. And rotating up here to the compound wrap, I'm going to open that compound wrap, and that point that's down inside, I'm going to pop up, and boom, all the mountain folds of the compound wrap turn into mountain folds of a rhombus twist, which I can then squash. Next, I'll continue with this pleat that would be overlapping if I had any more grid. And I'm going to use the same logic that I did for the rhombus that we folded on the other side. I'm going to say, well, from here to here, I follow the pleat one spacing out, and then my valley fold is at 60 degrees. Then I can set up my new rhombus twist, and I'm going to put a triangle wrap down below and a compound wrap. So opening this up, I'm going to bounce the valley over the mountain. Then where the valley hits the valley down below, that'll be a three-way intersection. So another bounce, we're coming in, down, out on both the valley and the mountain. And now I can press to squash. There are, of course, alternative sequences to get this folded, but they require flipping the paper over twice as much. And I'll take the triangle wrap, flip the paper over, and turn that triangle wrap into a closed triangle twist. Again, being very careful because I'm right at the edge of the paper. Rotating to grab that compound wrap, I'm going to take that point underneath and bring it up to the top, leaving all of my mountain folds in place, which gets me a rhombus twist. And by the way, if you didn't want to have your triangle twists at the very edge of the paper, there's an easy modification you can do when you're setting up your grid. You could fold your grid perpendicular to the edges instead of parallel and still do 24 divisions, and then your triangle twists would have two spaces before the edge of the paper. So there's always options, and each of these patterns is one potential subset of the infinite origami tessellation. So there's always more ways to fold any of these patterns. Okay, so I folded this rhombus twist from the compound wrap, and I'm coming down. There's this place that I would have a pleat overlap if I had any more grid. And I'm going to use the same logic once again. I'm saying from that closed triangle hole, I'm coming out one space, my valley is coming down. For me personally, this is usually where I open up and do a compound wrap before I even find the rest of the pleats of the rhombus. And then I can continue this through line on up. How did I know that that one was the through line instead of this one? Well, we've got this 60-degree angle here, and that makes this the perfect place for the central diamond. And this pleat going on up, instead of letting it pass through the rhombus twist, I'm going to do a triangle wrap. And putting it back down on the table, I can press to squash. Then I'll flip over to squash my new triangle twist from the triangle wrap. Pop out, finish setting up and squash my new rhombus twist from the compound wrap, and start the cycle all over again with a new rhombus twist. Same spacing, same compound wrap as before. And same triangle wrap on the side close to the rhombus I just made, and squash the new twist. So it's a bit of a long sequence of set up a rhombus with a triangle wrap and a compound wrap, then squash the triangle wrap into a triangle, squash the compound wrap into a rhombus, and then set up a new rhombus again with a new compound wrap and a new triangle wrap. Again, I'm moving fast because we've already seen these steps. We've actually seen them on both sides of the paper, nice and slowly. So you can always rewatch the slower version. I'm just emphasizing that there is indeed a rhythm and a logic to what we're doing. So I've got my new triangle from the triangle wrap. I'm putting in my new rhombus from the compound wrap. And now we're approaching getting all the way around, and we have that triangle wrap that's just been sitting there the whole time. So now when I go to put in the next rhombus twist, which is going to have its central diamond in here, notice that this pleat coming out from the triangle wrap is hitting this pleat from the rhombus at 120 degrees. That calls for a triangle wrap, not a compound wrap. So I'm going to pop the mountain down so my valley can pass through. I'm going to have my three-way intersection of valleys inside. And we're going to have two triangle wraps right next to each other. And then on the opposite side of the new rhombus twist, we'll have our triangle wrap as usual. And press to squash. Then we can flip over and turn the triangle wrap into a triangle twist. And this thing is where the compound wrap would have been. So where is the central diamond of our rhombus? Is it these two triangles or is it these two? Both of them are nestled into the corner of a triangle wrap. It's actually these first two, and we can shift the mountain fold here over one spacing. This erases the valley that was underneath, and the valley jumps to the far side. And that's yet another way to set up a closed rhombus twist. And press to squash. And that concludes Pebbled. And we've got all these twists on side A. We've got all those twists again on side B. This is quite a lot of twists to fit on 24 grid divisions. And like I mentioned earlier, you can get much more of this pattern if you use a bigger grid. I do want to bring out the light real quick. Mostly this pattern is named Pebbled for the backlighting, and one of the cool things is these little stars that show up with the backlighting. So you can see even more of those in the version with more repeats. There was also the version with the same twist that we put in, but on a different grid. Still 24 divisions, but perpendicular to the edge. And then the variation that you can find a crease pattern for in the ebook is putting all of those twists closer together. And when you put all the twists closer together, suddenly those stars are showing up in the center. And there's a whole bunch of straight lines on the edges of twists. So this is a pattern that I call emergent triangles, because you can outline really any size of triangles you like on the edges of these twists. So these are the ways that you can continue folding Pebbled. And once again, the ebook is available at gatheringfolds.com, origamiusa.org, and also at origamishop.com. That's origami-shop. So there's all kinds of cool things going on here. Tomorrow, we are doing another pattern that uses only rhombus and triangle twists. This time we're not getting close to the edge. And we're putting it closer together. So we'll have a very similar start to the pattern, but closer together. And only one of the two triangle setups that we make is going to turn into a triangle twist. The other is going to turn into a rhombus. So that's the difference between today's pattern and tomorrow's. They're both isoarea, same on both sides, and we're going to be seeing a lot more of these dense spacing rhombus and triangle patterns over the next few days. So this is kind of the point where if you're a very beginner with origami tessellations, you might want to, instead of continuing with the daily schedule, go back and practice some of the patterns that you've already completed. Practice so that they become easier for you. Maybe go back to other years of Advent of Tess and practice the first week or two of those. And then come back and get into these really exciting, but also really difficult patterns that are coming up in the next few weeks. So happy folding, everyone, and see you tomorrow.